This phone feels is definitely the smoothest phone I've ever used. It feels much faster than my GS3, which has some evident frame dropping or lagging on Android 4.0. But with Android 4.1 on this phone, with those impressive specs, I mean 2 gigs of RAM and 1.6 gigahertz on the processor, you definitely have a high-performing phone. So everything works perfectly well with this phone. You definitely don't feel any evidence that this phone is in need of additional horsepower. So definitely one of the best experiences I've had, especially with a TouchWiz device, which tends to be much more laggy than a bare Android experience. So for example, the Nexus phone with Android 4.1 is one of the smoothest Android experiences you can get, and this actually comes pretty close. Now the other big story here is because you have a large phone, you also have a large battery. So even though you have a larger screen with higher specs, that battery is still good for 35 hours of talk time. So that's impressive since most phones will average about 8 hours. So that's definitely on the high-end side and makes this one of the largest battery capacity phones in the market. So in conclusion, I definitely think the Note 2 is an interesting product for a number of reasons, but for me the most interesting is that large, high-quality OLED screen. I definitely really like it, as well as the impressive internal specs and Android 4.1, which makes this a very smooth performing phone. You also have that enormous battery, which is great for excellent battery life. Since most smartphones kind of struggle in this regard, it's nice to have a large phone with a large battery to get you through the day and then some. The stylus for me is less interesting, although it certainly has some interesting use cases. I haven't really found a need for it. But for me, that just happens to be a nice bonus which hides kind of discreetly in the phone. It doesn't really need to be used, at least it's there if you want to use it. So that's something to consider, but for me, the large screen, large battery, and impressive internal specs and software make this phone a very interesting product to look at. So that's going to do it for me guys in this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one.